Good day, all. I hope all you all are well, and Happy New Year to those that I have not spoken to already. And again, I wish you all the best during this holiday season and also the best as we approach 2022. Also, for those that have been hit with either COVID-19 or Omicron or the Omicron virus, please, I hope you all are doing well. Wish you all a safe recovery, and please reach out to me if you need any assistance. If I can be of any assistance to you, please just let me know. Before we begin, I would like to just take a few seconds just to relax, ease our minds. We call this our mindfulness session. During this time, I just want you all to just think about, what you've accomplished, who's helped you to get, assuming someone has helped you to get to where you are, the sacrifices that people have made for us to be where we are today. And I just want to take that moment to embrace that moment. All right. So with that being said, thank you all for taking time with me. I know I've not posted too many videos. I've been taking more time to really learn more about you all through your discussions. So please, thank you all for your creativity, for really taking time with the readings and videos. It really means a lot to me. Trust me when I tell you, it means a lot to me that you all are taking this class with me and just really taking the opportunity to just embrace these readings, because a lot of these pieces I've had for numerous years. I've tried hard to teach a course, not only in African American studies here, but in other places. And this is the first opportunity that I've had to teach this class. So I hope you all are enjoying it. But with that said, let me just take a few minutes just to go back into just the overall structure of the class, talk a little bit about the discussions. Overall, I think that you all I've provided you all with ample feedback in reference to your discussions. And many of you all have improved from day one to day now and just continue with that momentum. One of the common errors that I see coming up with the writing is many of you all are not, I shouldn't say many, but some of you all are not backing up some of your statements. So you might be making a very strong, powerful statement, but what I need you all to do is really back that up. So for example, if you say that, I'm just making it up, to say, the conditions of Black people have improved drastically over the last 10 years. How? Where's the evidence? Show me something so I can be on the same page as you. It's not that I don't believe you, but I just need to understand. I need you to contextualize that information when you put it forth, especially in your writing. The problem that many of us experience when we write is that we write how we speak. So it's like, we can get away with certain things when we converse with people, because people can assume, oh, I know what you mean. But in your writing, you need to be very specific, all right? And in another note, I use the word things. I've circled that numerous times with your writing. In your writing, please avoid the word things when you're writing, because things encompasses many things. I don't know what you're talking about. So instead of using things, use factors, use behaviors, whatever really funnels whatever you're talking about into something very specific that I can understand what you're talking about. Because when you say things, it can mean, it's a wide array of terms that can be used in there. It's the unknown. It's like an algebraic equation. I can assume what you're talking about, but I want you to be very specific with your writing, especially for those of you all that are and I spoke with a couple of you all that are interested in going to graduate school. Your writing is going to be critical for you to be successful. And that's just the rules of the game. And we're going to talk about that later on. But please just try to avoid the word things in your writing, and just practice. A lot of it is practice. I'm working with you all. Just take your time. This class is a springboard to your future. So please, you know, utilize this class, utilize me as your, as a supporter in your quest for whatever direction you're going to go in. So that's pretty good. So leaving off with that. And also for those that have reached out to me, thank you all. I've enjoyed having conversations with you all to help you all in the discussions, and I hope that will be beneficial for you in the future. So let me talk a little bit about some of the topics that you all have explored recently. I'm up to the melanin discussion, so I've not read the melanin discussion, but when I reviewed the video again, it was some rich information that the Carol Barnes, Mr. Carol Barnes, I'm not sure if he's a doctor now. I have not reached out to him, but it was some rich information, but from a chemist standpoint, but the information that he shared, I think speaks to many other topics, you know. And when we think about, when we try to understand the conditions of Black people in this country and across the globe, what maybe there's a biological reason that causes this reaction from others that try to suppress, repress, oppress Black people. So really think about that, especially after reading and listening to some pieces from Frances Cress Welsing. You'll begin to sit back and understand, like, what can really be going on in the white psyche that can contribute to this reaction when it comes to Black people. But also understand that melanin serves a function. Melanin is who we are. It's the skin that we have. It's our eyes, our hair. All of these pieces about us are melanin. So when you look at these pieces, really begin to take this seriously and do your own research when it comes to this, because this is a topic that we don't talk about. But I'll be honest with you, there are people who study melanin and they study us. So I'm gonna leave it there, because in the process of us avoiding, not all of us, please don't take that wrong, but in the process of us avoiding who we are, there are other people that are studying who we are in order to make sure that they are able to survive, okay? Another piece, and some of you all touched on this, and I'm gonna look at an intersection of race and economics for a second. A few of you all made a post about this, and I want to be very clear. First of all, let's just put it like this. Some people in their posts said that, you know, in order for us to really come up as a people, we need to have equality with white people as far as economic equality. The reality is that under the current economic structure, that will never happen. We're talking about Black people being thousands of years behind white people as it relates to finances and economic structure in this society. There's no way that there's going to be equality under the current structure. Remember what I shared with you all. You're thinking about, you have to understand that we are $14 trillion, excuse me, where they owe us $14 trillion total. That's coming from chattel slavery to Jim Crowism, to housing issues, to the forms of repression that have happened to all of our people. You're thinking about all these years of sacrifice, stolen land, people who've been wrongly incarcerated. All of these things all encompass all of the what is owed to us as a people. And so people, when people think about the conditions of Black folks, you really need to be sensitive to understanding the history. You can't just look at us as, you know, oh, look at that person did this criminal behavior out here. This is actually something much more severe that we need to really focus attention on, and it's not something that we can take lightly. But one of you all said in a post about recessions, and for those of you all that do know, I've dedicated about a good 15 years of my life to understand economics. And one of the reasons why, I was listening to a speech from, I believe it was Dr. Amos Wilson, who talked about Black Power. How do you seize Black Power? And he talked about Black economics. And I listened to him, people like Dr. Claude Anderson, I would say Dr. John Henry Clark, a lot of people that really talked about economics. And I said, you know, maybe I need to sit back and take some time to understand economics, because seems to be an area that is continuing to hurt us. And I did. And I don't like what I saw and what I am seeing. And one of you all posted that we had basically every 7 years we have a recession, all right? And that's on average. The severity of that depends. But let's just go into recent times. 2000 was what we call the dot-com bubble, all right? Where everybody was just buying everything that said .com. You know, people were buying it, stock market was going crazy, et cetera, until eventually the music stopped. And we saw a huge drop in the stock market in year 2000. Add 7 years to that is 2007. We call that the Great Recession. I remember that because I graduated from graduate school in the recession, and I was looking for a job and had trouble finding a job during that time period. So 2007 was when the official recession hit. 2008, I graduated, and the market officially bottomed March 2009. Some of you all may recall that a president by the name of Barack Obama went into office in 2009. So you're looking at around 2007, 2008 as the next recession that happened. If we add 7 years to that, we can look at 2014, 2015-ish as a time that we were going to have another recession. At the time, I'm studying and trying to understand what was going on, but I did not understand what was going on when they talked about something called monetary easing, whereby the Federal Reserve begins to decrease or debase the currency, all right, the value of the currency, which begins to allow or increases the money supply. So once you increase the money supply, companies are able to access more funds and be able to build their companies up, raise their stock prices up. And instead of a recession occurring, it was bypassed, whereby now to prevent a recession, you do an inflation, all right? You inflate or increase the money supply. Recession is a pullback, a slowdown in the economy. In order to slow it down, you have to juice it up, all right? Some people will call that, in the drug game, you know, you'll take a stimulant, right? You provide the person to jolt them up if they're feeling depressed, you give them cocaine. I'm not recommending that. I'm just giving that as an example, all right? So just let's say that the economy got some cocaine and it boosted it up and pushed it up. So rather than going into a depression or recession, we went into a high. 2015 plus 7 equals what? 2022. So this is 2022. I can only say to you that we can only look around us and see that something is not right. Look at all the companies that are shutting down. Look at the prices of food. Look at the price of oil. Look at all these issues that are happening right around us. Give you an example. I went to Harris Teeter last night. Went over to pick up some russet potatoes. They were going for $3.99 a bag. Empty, all right? Lady said, oh my gosh, I can't even get any potatoes. I said, you know, I know why? She said, what? I said, inflation. People are stocking up. They're getting the critical need items because this is, we're going into some uncertain times when you're talking about this virus, you're talking about unemployment, you're talking about people that are not working, you're talking about so much global issues that are occurring, from China, potential slowdowns in China, Russia potentially having a conflict with Ukraine. We have a lot of issues that are going on, but in this country, we have an inflationary issue that is going to, more than likely, is going to explode. And there's a possibility that it can happen in 2022. I hope that you all are preparing for this, because I don't know how much damage can happen to the Black community. I do know that in the 2008, 2007, 2008, they call it the Great Recession, Black and Latino people were lost about 50% of their net worth during that time period. Many of those people have not recovered. If another recession hits, I think this would be very damaging to those communities. So please, I hope that you're preparing for that. With that being said, let's talk a little bit about racism. And this is going to tie into, I think, about a few more of your discussions. So someone asked me, what's the Dr. Asa Hilliard discussion? And you're going to get that response from me right now, what that prompt is. So think of it like this. Asa Hilliard is a great leader who's done a tremendous job in educating our people and really addressing policy and the impact policy has on education and educational practices. And when you watch the video, you're going to see how he's studied these different African traditions and looking at how they view education. In reference to looking at how each student, when they come into the classroom, they're treated as a gold student, and they're treated as being great. Education is something that exists within you. Education comes from the root word educare, Latin word educare, which means to bring out or to bring forth. Education is the process of how we bring forth information. How do we bring out what exists within you? All right. Education is not meant to suppress you. However, within the public education system, we notice that people are being suppressed for what reason? Kids come into the classroom with talent, skills, energy, creativity that is being suppressed by what? All right, because of a teacher's limitations that they impose on them. We have to think about that. Now, when we think about education, and let's intersect education with racism and economics. I spoke with one of you all recently, and my wife was actually listening to the conversation, and she spoke to me. She said, "You know, you sound so passionate when you spoke with that student," and she said, "I have not heard you speak like that in a long time." And I thank that student for really lighting the fire in me to realize what I believe is so important, which is the education of people, you know, being able to, you know, relate to persons and really help to push someone to the next level, because that person wants it, and I want to be able to encourage that person to get to the next level. But in that conversation, and I hope that she doesn't mind me sharing this information, but I wanted to elaborate on the racism discussion when I talked about the difference between personal, institutional, and structural racism and how that plays a part in the education system. So I'm gonna give you a situation, all right? And I want you to think about this. When we think about what is racism, all right? And I'm gonna put two stories together in order to make my point. When I was teaching at a school in Greensboro, college in Greensboro, I was there for only about 2 years, right? I was a visiting professor. One class I was teaching, And this is why I tell you all, practice your writing. Your reading, or excuse me, your writing is linked to what you read, and your reading is linked to what you write and how you write. So when I was grading papers, I noticed that one of the students, out of all the students, there were some students that had some good ideas, but structurally, they could not organize their papers in a way to articulate their point. One of the students in particular actually excelled. Structure was great, ideas were great, A paper all the way. The other students, because of the structural issues, made it difficult for them to, quote unquote, get an A. I noticed this, all right? And I'm very conscious of this when it happens in the classroom and how I assess students. Because in some cases, when you think about assessment, assessment happens in 4 levels, all right? The first part is the pre-assessment, what we do at the beginning of a conversation, or excuse me, of a beginning of a lesson. We have the formative assessment, is what we do for education, for learning, all right? When you think about a formative assessment, is we want to, a quiz, you know, a discussion. Hey, what do you think about this or that, whatever. And the teacher, professor is using that information to see where the students are. You're testing for learning. When you see that there are issues when it comes to the formative assessment, what the role of the professor is to do a diagnostic assessment, which is to see if there's a problem that emerges with a student, you know, what we need to do, and we need to find out what's going on with that person. Is that student dealing with stress, dealing with depression, some kind of other issues? Maybe the student is not understanding the lesson. Maybe the student has a learning disability that we don't know about. You know, these are diagnostic assessments that we do in order to prevent a child, student, whatever, from failing, okay? Finally, we have the summative assessments, which is the summary of everything that we've learned in that whole process, all right? So what I'm noticing and what I'm doing with the papers this time in this class that I was teaching previously was doing formative assessments. What I noticed was something was going on with the writing. But this one particular student, who happened to be white, had very strong writing, which I can tell she came from a rich background. When I say rich, I'm talking about a rich background as far as a strong English background, and probably parents that probably knew how to write and taught her and prepared her how to write. That actually was the case. Now, one day in the lecture, we had one lecture we were having, the student comes out and says, you know, sometimes I feel guilty because my family owned slaves, and we've benefited from that for so many years. And in order for my family, because we make so much money, you know, we have to every year we contribute money to the NAACP, you know, and donations every year. And she's saying this, and I'm sitting here like, huh, that's very interesting. What do you do with that information? She is a young lady who's done everything right. Her parents have done, quote unquote, everything right. But the legacy has not done everything right. Is this young lady racist? Okay, because she's been able to go to some of the best schools, get the best education, all right, and more than likely is going to get a great career, okay? But there's this history that she sits on that she knows is privilege, but there's nothing she can do about that. Hold that. Now you have another student that comes from a first generational student that doesn't have that income, that has, you know, struggled to get to where they are, all right? And now they're in this classroom with this other person trying to write, and they're trying to put their ideas down, but they're not, their ideas are there, but the structure isn't there, All right, now let's play with this for a little bit. Both of these individuals, now this story is going to transfer into something else. Both of these individuals are applying for graduate school, all right? Both of them have to write a personal statement. Now, without being checked, both of them submit a paper on who they are and what they want to do if they pursue a graduate degree. There's one spot. Who does the graduate program accept and why? More than likely, you're going to select the student A, because why? She does everything right. She speaks, her writing is strong, all right? And because of that, that's the legacy that the school wants to continue. Let's say both the students had 3.8 GPAs, all right? The writing is going to be what stands out between the two of them. Now, let's say, for example, both students, the graduate school says we're going to bring both of them in, or we're going to take both of them in. More than likely, there's somebody that's going to be in that school, in that committee, in that department, that says, I don't think that student B should be here. All right. Now, student B might have great ideas, just wants an opportunity to succeed, but there are barriers that other people hold, and they can hold that person back. Okay. That's just the way it goes. Let's fast forward. Let's say person A has now had the opportunities to hook up with mentors in graduate school, has gained experiences with going to, experiences with grant writing, experiences with being on grants, experiences with going to conferences, but person B does not have those opportunities. Person A gets that because, hey, she's motivated, she's driven. This is a person that we like. The other person is motivated too, but she may not have the quote unquote academic, I guess, skills as the other person. She may not be as strong as the other person, but she still has motivation. This is the educational problem in this country, is that we're treating people differently based on something they have no control of. Why not treat both of these students with the same respect and love and dignity? We're not doing that. We're just continuing to perpetuate a system of oppression. So then what happens? These two students, both of them are coming to graduation. All right, they graduate. They both have a vita. All right, that's like a large resume, and they both submitted to a job, a job opening. All right, who are the people at the job more than likely going to accept? Oh wow, person A has she's written grants. She's been on this grant. She has 2 journal publications. Oh my gosh, this person is phenomenal. We need this person to continue our legacy. This person is going to bring in more students. Person B, she doesn't have, I don't see any journal articles. Where's her? She hasn't presented at any conferences. Oh man, look at her dissertation topic. It's on, racial behaviors of students in graduate school. Ah man, I don't know about that. This other person has all these degrees and all these fellowships and all these grants and all of these journals. We need to take that person. There goes the system. It just continues. That's a machine. And at what point does it stop? And then the next question that I ask is, for somebody who wants that to stop, at what cost? Because now when you put your head out there to stop this system, you could be the person that's going to be the victim of other people's ignorance. When we talk about racism, understand racism goes beyond the personal. It's more than just the institution, it's a structure. It's how all of these pieces work together to control, to oppress, to suppress. Just like in this background that I have here, you see all these little icebergs and stuff like that around here. Those are like those are people and institutions, but together they make up a structure. all right? A structure of oppression. And we have to be the ones to sit back and look at that structure and say, how are we going to study this, understand it, and work within it? Because it's not realistic, realistic for us to sit back and say, we're going to destroy the system. That's not going to happen, all right? It can happen, but that's not going to happen. More than likely, it's not going to happen. There are forces in place to prevent that from happening. You all are going to see that very soon when we come to the real, the bad, and the violent, when you understand that there are people that will fight to maintain this system at all costs. You're going to understand that there's a system when we look at ideology. Ideology is, and I've talked about this with some of your writings, in some of your writings and discussions, responses. Ideology is what controls behavior. Case in point. We work hard, go to school, work hard, get an education, get a good job, be successful, get a house on top of the hill with a white picket fence. In my case, get a wife, 2.5 children, and 2 dogs, all right, and 2 cars, and you're successful. That's the American dream. That's an ideology, all right? Because some people work hard, but they're not able to achieve the quote unquote American dream, all right? It controls us, and ideology controls us. But then how do you fight an ideology, all right? And ideologies come from whatever can control your mind is an ideology. Education, lowercase e, education, media, religion. I think those are like your major, entertainment are your major forms of ideological controls. When a person is able to study, understand, read, educate, capital E, educate themselves to understand that there's something much larger than that, that just because you work hard doesn't make you successful, all right? They begin to grow in something we call consciousness. Paulo Freire from Brazil said a conscienciação, which is the awakening of the mind, where you begin to understand the social conditions that exist, that we exist in, and what we need to do to overcome that. In cases where ideology, education or consciousness oversees ideology, the system will begins to supersede ideology, and you begin to organize with other people, like-minded people who begin to say, I agree with what you're saying. Let's talk about this more. Let's organize. Let's build our communities. Let's do these things, et cetera, et cetera. All right. The system reacts with something called repression, whereby to suppress the the consciousness and the organizational capacity, you have violence or the repression that begins to repress that behavior to keep people in their place. You're going to see cases of how this has happened throughout. I just gave you a couple of examples, but they've happened so many times. They happen in the education system all the time. But you're going to see the seamy side of the United States, and some of the extent to the extent that they took in order to prevent people from being quote unquote successful. So when somebody says, well, why can't Black people just pick themselves up by the bootstraps? Well, the issue is that somebody has cut those bootstraps off in many cases and has kicked us in the process and has held us down. So for us to even be here to tell our stories is an honor in itself, is a triumph in itself to be able to share your story on this planet in reference to what has happened to us. And I'm not trying to say that other people and other cultures have not been persecuted. I'm not saying that. I'm just talking about Black folks because this is the name of this class. We can teach another class and we can talk about those situations too. That's just in case I've been persecuted before because I've talked about this in other classes. So I'm just let you all know that just in case you say I'm talking too much about Black people, this course is a course in African American Studies. With that being said, I want to close with this statement, all right? In thinking about education, okay? Education to bring forth, to bring out. Education is linked, as I've learned, two factors shape education, and I'm going to add two more. One of my former colleagues when I was at South Carolina State University said that education is linked to experience and exposure. If somebody has been exposed to the SAT examination from the age of 4 years old, and they've taken the SAT throughout their life until they get into 12th grade, that person has a lot of experience with that examination and has been exposed to that examination, which means that they are more than likely going to be successful or get a good grade, or excuse me, good score when they take that examination. All right. Again, it's not that individual's fault. It's the fact that they took advantage of an opportunity that they were placed in. But you have another situation where I add two more. Education is also linked to mentorship and motivation. In some cases, we can be experienced with certain, the SATs and be exposed to it. But if we don't have somebody that teaches us how to take that examination, guides us along the process to think, hey, if you do well on this exam, this is going to help you with different scholarships and fellowships in the future. All right. Let me help you and guide you to how you're going to be successful with this exam. But there's an internal process that we have to consider: motivation. And that's the drive, that internal drive that a person has to want it more than the other person, the will to want to succeed. Black folks as a whole may not have the exposure and the experience and the mentorship to achieve what other people from privileged and prestigious positions have. But the one thing that we do have that we cannot let die is the motivation to be great. I wish you all the best. Happy New Year. If you have any questions, please contact me at your earliest convenience.